Hi everyone, Josh with Talk About Trek, back again to talk about another Star Trek book. And I don't usually do this, I usually wait till I finish the book completely and then I'll come and make a video and rant on it for a little bit. But this one here, TNG book number 11, is just so strange that I stopped halfway through and decided, let's talk about it now, and then we'll talk about it again when I'm done, and we'll see what we think then. And let me just explain how this all started here. So this one, I actually started reading sometime in December. And throughout the holidays, we kind of pick it up a little bit here and there. But it made for kind of a disjointed read. So just a few days ago, I kind of went back through and perused it again. And really what we've got here is a very strange book. So let's dig in and find out a little bit more. So this is TNG novel number 11, Gulliver's Fugitives, by Keith Sharee. While searching for the USS Huxley, a starship missing for over 10 years, the Enterprise stumbles across a forgotten colony of humans on a planet called Rampart, a world where fiction, speculation, and works of the imagination are considered the ultimate crime. A survey team from the planet beams on board the Enterprise to search for contraband materials, and suddenly the crew finds themselves plunged into the middle of a murderous civil war between a determined band of rebels and the planet's ruthless mind police. A civil war whose outcome will determine not only the future of the planet, Rampart, but the life of Captain Jean-Luc Picard as well. So, that's the summary they give on the back, but man, that does not even scratch the surface of the zaniness that they've got going on in this book. So, we're going to do something a little bit different, and I'm actually just going to kind of break it down chapter by chapter, because I did make some notes. And we'll just see what you guys think about this. So, the book begins, chapter 1 is actually, you get a look inside of this Rampartian society. So you get a look inside the mind of a guy who's trying to hide his thoughts from these thought police. And in the end, it turns out that he's actually hiding written pages from a book, and some of them fly away and are scattered to the winds. So it kind of gives you an idea of how much like this society controls its people. They're not allowed to imagine anything. It's hard to imagine, even. But that chapter 1 gives you that kind of brief look, and you're kind of like, well, what? Okay. Then, chapter 2. Okay, so chapter 2, we're going off in this direction now. So chapter 2, you've got Counselor Troi, who for some reason is going into a meditative state. And in that state, she goes on this journey with this voice, and she encounters this mere man creature, and basically determines, after all this happens, that these are creatures that are somehow out there. You know, they're out there in space on another plane. So chapter 3 begins with them scanning to find these creatures from her weird dream. So in scanning to find the creatures, they don't find those, but they do find the USS Huxley, which was presumed lost 10 years ago or something like that. So they find the USS Huxley, and they prepare to set a course for that. And then meanwhile, just a little segue, Riker walks into the turbo lift, and he sees two little kids kissing. And he's like, oh, I gotta stop these kids. It turns out they're not kids. They're some aliens. Their names are Olaf and Una. They look like little kids. And they share a secret with Worf. That's just going on, so just keep that in the back of your mind. I don't know what's going on with that, but it made for part of chapter 3, so that's something that's happening. Alright. So you follow. I hope you're following along so far, because this is chapter 4 is where it really gets crazy. So they get to Rampart, they reach out to contact them, and the people on Rampart say, "Well, no, there's nobody here by that name. That ship was never here. What you're saying is a lie. Everything we say is the truth, and that's that." Picard, argues back, and eventually it's decided that they're not going to leave unless they get a chance to search. So the people there, they have a Major Ferris and Director Crichton, who's in charge of this mind police. They call it the Cephalic Security. Now, this is where the book kind of lost me. And I'm thinking maybe when I was reading in December, maybe this is where it kind of lost me too. Picard agrees to have these two guys beam up, along with 10 of their scanning robots. Now, are you telling me I just can't see this happening in any episode of Star Trek where any of the captains is going to allow 10 robots just to beam onto their ship. Yeah, just go ahead, beam on, scan around, even if you've scanned it and you think it's safe, which is what they say in here. But, I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. Anyway, these guys, Crichton and Ferris, also wear these very ridiculous helmets, which they described as having two visors over the eyes, so that if there's something that they're not supposed to see, the visors will censor it for them. So I kind of made a little image there. Yeah, get that right there. That's kind of what I'm thinking it looks like. Little microphone. They've got little things on their ears, so if there's something they're not supposed to hear, then they don't have to hear it. So here in Chapter 4 is when things get really crazy in this book. So they're doing a walkthrough of the ship to see if they've got any contraband aboard. And of course, to these people, contraband is anything. So as soon as Picard's like, well, yeah, of course, we tell stories, we have imaginations, we're humans, that's what we're about. These guys flip out, and they call for Project Rhombus, or maybe they called it Directive Rhombus. But anyway, they enacted their Rhombus plan, and at first I was like, okay, Rhombus, that's weird. They called their thing after a shape. And then it kind of made me laugh. So, like, these people, since they have no imagination, when they come up with a certain plan, they can't have, like, a cool name, like, Project Tripwire or something like that. They got to call it after a shape. They could go Project Square, Project Rhombus. So, anyway, they go with Project Rhombus. And now, all of a sudden, the crew of the Enterprise is a bunch of dolts. Picard gets knocked out by this guy. These one-eyes start shooting radiation and killing people. And they take Picard hostage. And they actually get him off of the ship and down to the planet. So 2 guys and their 10 robots get beamed onto the Enterprise and then school everybody, and they leave. End of Chapter 4. Okay, Chapter 5. We get a new character. Ensign Shikibu. She's a Zen archer, right? Anyway, her Zen archery skill helps her to shoot one of these one-eyes with a phaser. But then she gets shot as well. Elsewhere in Chapter 5, Riker is trying to negotiate with this Crichton guy. And in the middle of these negotiations, Troy says, ask him about the people from my dream. So he does, and Crichton seems to know the people from the dream. So, we're 5 chapters in here. And the Enterprise has been schooled by these people. Picard has been captured. And we go into Chapter 6, and for whatever reason, they've decided to send an away team of 3 down to rescue them. So Riker, Data, and Troy have beamed down to the planet, and they are immediately captured. Riker is zapped, Data is captured, but in the hustle and bustle, Troy escapes and ends up with a group of rebels that live there on the planet who use their imagination and who all use names from fiction and things like that. So she meets up with Caliban, who then introduces her to a Rhiannon, and then they get down into a cave, which they call Alastor, and they meet Odysseus. And this group of people basically is down there being storytellers. And they're the ones that these mind police are always trying to get after and stomp out. So there we are. Now that's 7 chapters into this book. And we're like here to... We are all over the place. We've got a million different characters in here. And the characters we like are all acting like idiots. So I gotta tell you, I'm reading this book, and I'm like, why do I keep reading this book? It seems silly, but there's something about it that I just have to keep going on. So, back on the Enterprise, Geordi and Worf have a plan to hopefully take out some of these one-eyes. The plan fails. Geordi hides in a closet and gets Vulcan neck pinched, and they all fall asleep for a little bit. And that's Chapter 8. Oh, also, Wesley has a flashback, and apparently he has a crush on Ensign Shibiku. So, that's probably going to come up later in the book for some reason. So, Chapter 9. We're back down on the planet. Picard and Riker, captured, have been sentenced to die by this Crichton guy. Not a lot is added to the story there, except that this Crichton guy does seem to know something else. He knows something more. So that's kind of like the little bit of a mystery. There's something more going on there. So you get that little bit there, this little kind of look inside of the cephalic security. And then, chapter 10, boom, you're back with Troy in Alastor with a bunch of storytellers. And then they get busted in, and the CS is there. So the CS is busted in, they have to escape, they're running away, and they've escaped, and a couple of them died. I think they said Caliban rode a one eye, and maybe it exploded. I don't know. So that's the end of chapter 10. And that's where I've stopped for now. So chapter 10 put me, let's see, about right there. So we are halfway through this very, very strange Star Trek novel. But I am intrigued now as to see where in the heck are they taking this thing. For Pete's sake. And look at the cover art on this, too. You've got some very interesting cover art. Let's have a closer look. Look at that. So you can see we've got Cerberus, we've got a dragon, we've got a minotaur, Anubis. Now, none of these things have yet appeared in this book, but we've got a good 10 to 12 chapters left to see what are they going to do. How are they going to wrap this up? So I am excited to see, and what I really want to see is this guy turn it around for the crew of the Enterprise. And they're going to need a big win in this novel, because as of right now, they are just getting knocked apart. So this has been part 1 of Gulliver's Fugitives. Gulliver's Fugitives. This very fantastic TNG novel. Stay tuned for part 2, because now that I'm into this, I'm going to burn through these last 10 to 12 chapters, and we'll be back to talk about the finish of this book real soon. So anyway, thank you all for watching so much. As always, live long and prosper, and we'll see you next time.